Paul Chase here. I just want to start by saying thank you. I truly appreciate the trust you've placed in me to represent you. That means a lot, and I want you to know I take that responsibility seriously. My goal is to make this process feel clear, comfortable, and as smooth as possible for you from start to finish. In this video, we're going to walk through this entire document together, the seller representation agreement, step by step. I've also indexed this video to match the section numbers in the document, so if you want to jump around, you can skip to the section that matches what you're looking at in your copy. As we go through this, I'll break everything down in a simple, straightforward way so you can feel confident about what you're signing. Section 1 starts on line 3, hiring me as your agent. This section is where you officially hire me as your real estate agent. More specifically, it gives me the exclusive right to represent you in selling your property. What that means is I'm your point person for everything marketing, negotiations, communication with buyers, and guiding you through the entire process. It also means you won't be working with multiple agents at the same time, which helps keep everything streamlined and avoids confusion. All buyer inquiries, offers, and negotiations come through me, so I can protect your interests and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Section 2 starts on line 16, property information. Here we clearly identify the property we're talking about. This includes the address and, if needed, the legal description. This section is important because it removes any ambiguity. Everyone involved in the transaction knows exactly which property this agreement applies to. Section 3 starts on line 27, term of agreement. This section lays out the time frame of our working relationship, when it starts and when it ends. If we get your home under contract during that time, the agreement automatically continues through closing, so I can see everything through to the finish line for you. If needed, we can always extend or adjust this time frame by mutual agreement. Section 4 starts on line 31, price. This is where we establish your listing price. We'll work together to determine a price that makes sense based on the market, your goals, and the condition of the property. This price can always be adjusted later if needed, but this is our starting point when we go to market. Section 5 starts on line 34, financing. This section outlines what types of financing you're open to considering from buyers. Different buyers come with different types of loans or payment methods, and this section simply clarifies what you're willing to work with. The more flexible we are here, the more potential buyers we can attract, but ultimately it's completely up to you. Section 6 starts on line 44, brokerage fee. This section explains how I get paid for representing you. It outlines the commission, how it may be split with a buyer's agent, and that it's typically paid at closing from the proceeds of the sale. That means there's no out-of-pocket payment up front. Everything is handled through the transaction. It also explains situations where a buyer is found and how that affects compensation. I always want to be transparent about this so there are no surprises. Section 7 starts on line 92, additional fees. This section is simply a placeholder for any additional fees, if there are any agreed upon. Most of the time, this section is either blank or very straightforward, but it's here in case anything specific needs to be added. Section 8 starts on line 96, included items. This section outlines what stays with the property when it sells. Typically, this includes things like fixtures, built-in appliances, and anything attached to the home. This helps avoid misunderstandings later on between you and the buyer about what is or isn't included. Section 9 starts on line 105, excluded items. This is where we list anything you plan to take with you. If there are items that might normally be assumed to stay but you want to keep, we'll clearly note them here so everything is transparent from the beginning. Section 10 starts on line 110, farm, crops, and timber rights. This section mainly applies to rural or agricultural properties. It explains what happens with crops or timber if they exist on the property, including who has the right to harvest them depending on timing and agreements. Section 11 starts on line 118, water and mineral rights. This section addresses water rights and mineral rights connected to the property. Unless otherwise specified, those rights transfer with the property. If there's anything unique about your property in this area, we'll make sure it's clearly documented. Section 12 starts on line 130, title and existing encumbrances. This section confirms that you have the legal authority to sell the property and outlines any existing loans or liens. It also states that you will provide clear and marketable title at closing, meaning the buyer receives ownership without unresolved claims or issues. If there are any loans or obligations tied to the property, those will be handled as part of the closing process. Section 13 starts on line 152, MLS authorization. This gives me permission to list your property in the multiple listing service. This is one of the most important marketing tools we have because it exposes your property to other agents and their buyers, significantly increasing visibility and the likelihood of getting strong offers. Section 14 starts on line 160, lockbox authorization. This allows us to place a lockbox on your property so agents can access it for scheduled showings. It makes the showing process much more convenient and helps us get more buyers through the door while still maintaining security and tracking access. Section 15 starts on line 166, AVM and blogging authorization. This section gives you control over whether automated value estimates and online comments are allowed on your listing. Some sellers prefer more privacy, while others are comfortable with broader online exposure. This lets you decide what you're comfortable with. Section 16 starts on line 170, advertising authorization. This outlines how your property can be marketed. This includes online listings, photos, video, signage, and other advertising methods. This is where we really showcase your home and make it stand out in the market. Section 17 starts on line 179, seller's property disclosure. This section explains that you'll provide a property disclosure after accepting an offer. This disclosure gives the buyer important information about the condition of the property. It's a key part of being transparent and helps protect you by clearly communicating what you know about the home. Section 18 starts on line 183, lead-based paint disclosure. This applies if your home was built before 1978. If it does apply, there are federal requirements to disclose any known information about lead-based paint. We'll walk through that together if needed. Section 19 starts on line 196, transaction-related services disclaimer. This section clarifies my role. I'm here to guide you through the real estate process, but I'm not acting as an attorney, accountant, or specialist in areas like inspections or engineering. If something comes up that requires expert advice, I'll help point you in the right direction. Section 20 starts on line 212, dual agency. This explains a situation where the brokerage represents both the buyer and the seller. If that happens, the brokerage must remain neutral and cannot advocate for one side over the other. Everything is handled fairly and transparently, and you'll always be informed if this situation arises. Section 21 starts on line 227, consent regarding conflicting agency duties. This gives you the choice of whether I can bring buyers that I may also be working with. If you allow it, it can increase exposure to potential buyers. If not, that's completely fine as well. This is entirely your decision. Section 22 starts on line 245, other potential buyers and sellers. This section simply acknowledges that I may be working with other buyers and sellers at the same time. That's normal in real estate, and it doesn't change my commitment to representing your best interests. Section 23 starts on line 251, information warranty. Here, you're confirming that the information you provide is accurate. This helps ensure that everything shared with buyers is reliable and protects you from issues down the road. Section 24 starts on line 256, deposit. This allows me to receive earnest money deposits from buyers. It's important to note that receiving a deposit doesn't mean you've accepted an offer. You still have full control over whether to move forward. Section 25 starts on line 261, cost reimbursement. This section explains what happens if a buyer defaults on a contract. It outlines how certain costs may be covered using earnest money and how those funds may be distributed. Section 26 starts on line 270, earnest money disputes. This section covers what happens if there's a disagreement over earnest money. In those cases, funds may be held until the issue is resolved or, in some situations, submitted to a court for a decision. Section 27 starts on line 279, general provisions. This includes standard legal language about how the agreement is enforced, including attorney fees, and that Idaho law governs the contract. Section 28 starts on line 285, wire transfer warning. This is a very important section. It warns about the risk of wire fraud and emphasizes that you should always verify wiring instructions directly before sending any funds. This is something I'll also help you stay on top of throughout the transaction. Section 29 starts on line 293, non-discrimination. This confirms that all parties will follow fair housing laws and treat everyone equally. Section 30 through 38 starts on line 296, additional terms. These sections include standard provisions that cover things like communication expectations, electronic signatures, unexpected events, and access to the property. They're there to protect both you and the transaction as a whole. Section 39 starts on line 328, signatures. This is where everything becomes official once signed. Friend, if anything in this still doesn't make sense, please don't hesitate to call me or send me an email. I'm always happy to walk through it with you personally. I truly want you to feel confident and comfortable every step of the way. Whether you'd like to meet in person, if you're local, or just hop on a call if you're not, I'm always available. I'm grateful for the opportunity to represent you. I'm here to watch out for your best interests, guide you through the details, and make this transaction go as smoothly as possible. You've got someone in your corner. I've got you. Paul Chase.